YouTubers, this is Nurse J at Nurse in the Truth, and I hope everyone is having a great Tuesday. So Nurse J got in a little bit more hours of sleep, and she feels a little better today. Trying to catch up on all that family drama and taking care of family members. So we are going to talk a little bit about the Anunnaki. Now, some of you that just drop on my channel, I know that you may not be familiar with the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki are these gods and goddesses that came from the sky down to earth, from a planet called Nibiru, as we've been told. And these are your players from your Genesis 6:4. Now, if that particular sentence would not have been put in your Bible, you would have never known the truth about, really, is this our real origins? Did we really come from what we think? So I'm going to give you a little information. There were 20,000 tablets thereabout found under King Ashurbanipal's ziggurat. It's called the Library of Ashurbanipal. And these tablets were found in the 1800s, and they were transcribed. Now, not to say all of them have been, because they're spread out all over between Britain, Germany, and so on and so forth. Now, Zecharia Sitchin is one of the authors that was very educated in Sumerian, Babylon, and Akkadian text, and he was Russian born, so he was very, very smart. Now, not to say that he maybe put a little bit of spin on his books, but translation is translation. Now, what they have translated, all of this is in the Oxford College website. If you'd like to read any of the tablets, you may do so. But I suggest to you to go to mesopotamiangods.com and do some searching yourself. Now, these tablets were written in the Akkadian and Sumerian language, and this is the first writings that we have. Now, the Egyptians were hieroglyphs. They were holy, sacred writings in symbolic form. But these tablets were in a little bit different writing. Now, so let's go in and dive in to the story about Enki and Ninhursag. Enki and Ninhursag, they were half siblings, and they were children of King Anu from Nibiru. Enki is the eldest son out of Enki and Enlil, but Enlil had a full-blooded mother and father from Nibiru. Enki was from a consort from another star system. Or could have been a consort from Nibiru. But either way, he still was not the top dog in his numerology, of course. Enlil was number 50, and Enki was number 40. And you will see the number 40 in the Bible all the time. Now, you can go with me to mesopotamiangods.com, and we are going to read about the mixed breed creation. Put your thinking caps on, have an open mind, because what I'm about to read to you, you're not going to believe this. But, dear truth seekers, what we are doing today, we are the gods, and we create other things. We create clones, we create hybrids of animals, and we are tampering and messing with fruits and vegetables in their natural state and making it GMO. So, how can we get mad at them because we're doing the same thing they did? It's just an evolutionary process, my dear friends. So, let's read this wonderful text. In those days, in the days when heaven and earth were created, in those nights, in the nights when heaven and earth were created, in those years, in the years when the fates were determined, when the Anunnaki gods were born, when the goddesses were taken in marriage, when the goddesses were distributed in heaven and earth, when the goddesses became pregnant and gave birth, when the gods were obliged to work for their food, for their meals. The senior royal descendant gods oversaw the work, while the minor gods were bearing the toil. That's going to be your Ajiji workers. Now listen, the royal descendants were the high gods, and the minor gods were bearing the toil. These gods were digging the canals and piling up the silt in Harala. The gods, dredging the clay, began complaining about this life. At that time, the one of the great wisdom, the creator of all the senior gods, Enki, lay on his bed, not waking up from his sleep in the deep Inger. In the flowing water, the place, the inside of which no other god knows. Isn't this funny? He's the most wise, and none of the gods to this day know where his abode is. The god said, weeping, he is the cause of lamenting. Namu, Enki's mother, the primeval mother who gave birth to the senior gods, took the tears of the gods to one who lay sleeping, Enki, and not wake up from his bed, to her son. Are you really lying there asleep and not awake? The gods, your creatures, are smashing. My son, wake up from your bed and please apply the skill deriving from your wisdom and create a substitute for the gods so that they can be freed from their toil. Okay, so Enki is the Lord of wisdom. He's in his abode that none of the gods know. His mother, the one that gave birth, came to him and said, to his great wisdom, these other lesser gods are coming to me, and I'm bringing this to you. Create a substitute. At the word of his mother, Enki rose from his bed. In Hal Ankung, his room for pondering, he slapped his thigh in annoyance. God bless it, mother. God. Isn't this funny? The wise and intelligent one, the prudent of skills, the fashioner of the design of everything brought to life birth goddesses. Enki reached out his arm over them and turned his attention to them. And after Enki, the fashioner of designs by himself, had pondered the matter, and he said to his mother Nama, my mother, the creature you planned will really come into existence. Enlil's mother-in-law, Nisaba, working the grains of the field, and giants farming on the earth, impose on him the work of carrying baskets. You should knead clay from the top of the Abzu. The birth goddesses will nip off the clay, and ye shall bring the form into existence. Let Ninmah Ninhursag act as your assistant, and let Ninmah, Kuzinana, Ninmada, Ninbarag, Ninmug, and Nagina, stand by as you give birth. My mother, after you have decreed this fate, let Ninmah impose on him the working of carrying baskets. So Enki was saying, after this is said and done, instead of the gods, carrying the baskets on their heads, then the men and women were going to be carrying baskets on their heads. And as today, you do see women, the only people in the East carrying baskets on their head is the women. There's a 6-line break in the tablet, and then it goes on to say, Enki brought joy to their heart. He set a feast for his mother Ninmah and for Ninmah, Ninhursag. All the princely birth goddesses ate delicately reed and bread. On Enlil and the Lord Nuddamud, Enki roasted and ate. All the senior gods praised him, O Lord of wise understanding, who is as wise as you. Doesn't that sound like something in the Old Testament? O Lord, who is wise than you. Enki, the great Lord, who can equal your actions? There again, who is as equal to you, Lord? Like a corporal father, you are the one who has the me of deciding destinies. In fact, you are the me. Enki and Ninmah, Enki's sister Ninhursag, drank beer. The hearts became elated, and then Ninmah said to Enki, man's body can be neither good or bad, and whether I make a fate good or bad depends on my will. So it seems like in the very beginning, when they made these particular beings, that it was on their will whether their bodies came out bad or good through possible lab work. Enki answered Ninmah and Ninhursag, I will counterbalance whatever fate, good or bad, you happen to decide. Ninmah took clay from the top of the Abzu in her hand, and she fashioned it first a man who could not bend his outstretched weak hands. In the scriptures, do you remember, they said that man was made out of the dirt of the ground. Clay, red clay, which is Adamu, red. Look at your Hebrew words. Enki looked at the man who could not bend his outstretched weak hands and agreed his fate. He appointed him as a servant of the king. So because he could not do certain things, he still lived, but he gave him a job that made him feel worth of something, even though he couldn't do like the others. Second, she fashioned one who turned back the light, a man with constantly open eyes. Enki looked at the one who turned back the light, the man with constantly open eyes, and decreed his fate, allotting to it the musical arts, making him as a chief in the king's presence. Have you ever understood? Have you ever wondered how people that were blind, that could not see, like the wonderful people in the days of the 1700s, the one that were blind. I don't know which one it was. It was Mozart or Beethoven or Bach, one of those. And they had the most beautiful music because they could hear. Very talented people. Stevie Wonder. Third, she fashioned one with both feet broken, one with paralyzed feet. And Enki looked at the one with both feet broken, the one with paralyzed feet, him for the work of, and the silence, verse Smith. And I, Miss has instead, she fashioned one, a third one, born as an idiot. Enki looked at this one, the one born as an idiot, and decreed his fate. He appointed him as a servant of a king. 4, she fashioned one who could not hold back his urine. And Enki looked at the one who could not hold back his urine and bathed him in enchanted water and drove out the Namtar demon from his body. 5th, she fashioned a woman who could not give birth. And Enki looked at the woman who could not give birth and decreed her fate. He made her belong to the queen's household. He also, as a weaver, fashioned her to belong to the queen's household. 6th, she fashioned one with neither penis nor vagina on its body. Enki looked at the one with neither penis nor vagina on its body, and give it the name Nibiru, eunuch, and decreed as its fate to stand before the king. So here we have the word eunuch coming from the very beginning of time. They were born that way. Ninmah threw the pinched off clay from her hand on the ground, and a great silence fell. The great Lord Enki said to Ninmah, I have decreed the fates of your creatures and given them their daily bread. See, Ninmah started making these, and Enki decreed their fate. What would happen to them if this was to happen after the creation process? He already had a plan. Come now, I will fashion somebody for you, and you must decree the fate of the newborn one. Enki devised a shape with head and mouth in its middle, and said to Ninmah, pour ejaculated semen into a woman's womb, and the woman will give birth to the semen of her womb. Ninmah stood by for the newborn, and the woman brought forth in the mist. In return, this was Umul. Its head was afflicted. Its place of was afflicted. Its eyes were afflicted. Its neck was afflicted. It could hardly breathe, and its ribs were shaking. Its lungs were afflicted. Its heart and its bowels were afflicted. With its hand and its lolling head, it could not put into its mouth, and its spine and head were dislocated. The weak hips and the shaky feet could not carry it on the field. Enki fashioned it this way. Enki said to Ninmah, for your creatures I have decreed a fate. I have given them their daily bread. Now you shall decree a fate for my creature. Give him his daily bread too. Ninmah looked at Umul and turned to him. She went near to him and asked him questions, but he could not speak. And she offered him bread to eat, but he could not reach out for it. He could not lie on, and he could not. Standing up, he could not sit down, could not lie down, could not a house, and could not eat bread. And Ninmah answered Enki, this man you have fashioned is neither alive nor dead. He cannot support himself. Enki answered Ninmah, I decreed a fate for the first man with the weak hands. I gave him bread. I decreed a fate for the man who turned back the light. I gave him bread. I decreed a fate for the man with broken and paralyzed feet. I gave him bread. I decreed a fate for the man who could not hold back his urine. I gave him bread. I decreed a fate for the woman who could not give birth, and I gave her bread. I decreed the fate for the one with neither penis nor vagina on its body. I gave it bread. My sister. And Ninmah answered Enki, you entered. Look, you do not dwell in heaven. You do not dwell on earth. You do not come out to look at the land where you do not dwell, but where my house is built, your words cannot be heard. Where you do not live, but where my city is built, I myself am silenced. My city is ruined, my house is destroyed, my child has been taken captive. I am a fugitive who has had to leave the Ekur in Nippur. Even I myself could not escape from your hand. Enki replied to Ninmah, who could change the words that left your mouth? Remove Umul from your lap. Ninmah, may your work be. You for me what is imperfect. Who can oppose this? The man whom I shaped after you, let him pray. Today, let my penis be praised, and may your wisdom be confirmed. May the Ekum and Nikum proclaim your glory. My sister, the heroic strength, the song, the writing, the gods who heard, let Umul build my house. Ninmah could not rival the great Lord Enki. Father Enki, your praise is sweet. And then Hersag successfully produces a baby. My friends, that is the story of the hybridization of mankind. That is the truth of the Bible. I know that this may be hard to swallow for some of you, and I do believe it is at a time where the children are waking up to the fact. These are the earliest writings that have been transcribed, and the people of the Middle East, of Assyria and Babylon and even Egypt knew this information. They knew who they came from, and that kingship was lowered down from the skies of Nibiru, and of the bloodlines of the gods and all of the world at that time. I do believe we are in the age of where we are going to know. So, why don't you search the gods? Because there's plenty to search. And even though they were deformed and had problems, let's think about this for a moment. If you, the human today, had a messed up child through DNA, I know plenty that have children that are special needs. Will you love them? Will you do away with them? Enki and Ninmah, they did not get rid of their children. Things happen in DNA sequence. Things happen. We are normal, quote unquote, but two normal people can produce a genetic altercation. As parents, we will love our children and do whatever it takes for them. And they came out, and Enki and Ninmah loved them regardless and gave them jobs to make them feel a little better. And Enki says, and teach them to pray. Isn't that a beautiful story? He did not kill them or get rid of them, because that was the creation. Until next time, I hope you've enjoyed this video. And please, I encourage you to go to mesopotamiangods.com and read all the Sumerian tablets that you can find. Until then, Hotep and Ashe, and we'll see you soon, guys. Bye.